Trump secures border overnight as Southwest land border encounters are now down to 11,709 in February, lowest ever since the year 2000. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Executive Director with Americans for Limited Government and Americans for Limited Government Foundation. Hit that subscribe button. Today, we're going to be talking about President Donald Trump's border policies, which by all accounts, all data are extraordinarily successful right now. The southern border has been secured seemingly overnight. The amount of border encounters from a year ago is down 94%. It was, you were getting hundreds of thousands of people crossing the border during the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration. Millions of people all told. Almost 11 million came across the border that we have counted. That doesn't even factor in gotaways and other folks who came in through various ports of entry and were simply allowed to stay here illegally under the, frankly, lawless rule of Biden and Harris. But now President Trump has said enough is enough. He's gotten tough on the southern border. And I think the numbers simply speak for themselves. This is from Customs and Border Protection, cbp.gov. They update this every single month. And in February of 2024, we were getting 189,913 border encounters. Well, in the month of February 2025, that was 11,709 enforcement encounters. And that is a 94% drop. That is what President Trump promised to do. As he declared a border emergency on day one in office. And he says, we're going to get serious. We're going to continue building the border wall. We're going to put the U.S. military on the border. Well, it's had an immediate impact. He threatened to put 25% tariffs on Mexico if they don't help out with the border. They immediately send 10,000 troops to the border. They may yet get the tariff put on them, but that's gonna, we still want more help with the fentanyl, but maybe we're getting more help from Mexico than, say, California right now or some of these other blue states. But if you hit the link in the description, you'll get my piece from yesterday. Southwest land border encounters dropped to 11,709 in February, the first full month of President Donald Trump's tenure in office, according to data gathered by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the lowest ever on record in data dating all the way back to the year 2000. So I wanted to see how far back these encounters data goes. And for that, you need to go to the U.S. Office of Homeland Security Statistics. And then you can look up CBP border encounters. But this is ohss.dhs.gov. They keep the longer set here. But this shows you like what was happening during the Trump administration with border encounters. 2019, it had spiked up a little, but then it was down again in 2020 after they started doing remaining Mexico. But then this is the Biden administration where millions upon millions of people were coming. And I added up all the numbers in their data. If you go down to download data, you'll get data all the way back to the year 2000 for both U.S. Border Patrol and the Office of Field Operations. You need to download both of those data sets. And what you'll see is that these are the lowest numbers for border encounters that have been seen on record in 25 years of gathering this data. So Trump is accomplishing just in his first full month in office is remarkable. It's extraordinary progress. It's exactly what he promised to do, and is probably why he's very popular with the American people on his immigration policies. They know he takes it seriously, and now the numbers speak for themselves. Great. I just closed my window there. Now we're gonna have to go back to accidentally close the window. Oh well, these things happen. Let's go down here. Sorry about that. These things happen. Compared to a year ago in February 2024, it was 189,913, now down to 11,709, a 93.8% decrease in border encounters, showing that President Donald Trump's decision to immediately deploy the U.S. military to the southern border is having the effect that he was hoping to serve as a deterrent, and as construction has resumed on the southern border wall that former President Joe Biden left incomplete. A part of the success is also undoubtedly President Trump's threatened 25% tariff on Mexico, an ultimatum he leveled before he even took office. If you look at this November 25, 2024 Truth Social post from Trump, we could zoom in a little here. As everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing drugs and crimes at levels never seen before. Right now, a caravan coming from Mexico, composed of thousands of people, seems to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our currently open border. On January 20th, as one of my many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegals stop this invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use their power, and until such time as they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price. And this had immediate results. If you look at this is from February 3rd, 2025, just within a couple weeks of taking office, Trump had made contact with the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. I've just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for 1 month period, during which we have negotiations headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives of Mexico. I look forward to participating in those negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our countries. Clearly, Trump wants to reinstate Remain in Mexico and other policies that were successful during the Trump administration. You will recall Trump had similarly threatened a 25% tariff on Mexico, and almost immediately that resulted in the Remain in Mexico policy being reinstated. Now, I believe at the beginning, now we've had another month of being paused here for some of these 25% tariffs, but I believe on April 2nd, all of them are going to go into effect because we still haven't stopped fentanyl yet. And we still haven't stopped the illegal immigrant invasion into the United States. So Trump is saying, we're going to keep on going with these tariffs. We appreciate your help, but you could be doing more. And the more you do, the quicker the tariffs, this 25% tariff will go away. So Trump wants to win the border war immediately by getting Canada and Mexico to cooperate. And I think it's working. Let's see here. Trump says there's still more to be done to keep fentanyl from flowing into the U.S. from both Mexico and Canada. And so he paused the imposition of 25% tariff on cars from both countries until April, but they are set to go into effect. Now, he's also declared a national emergency on January 20th under the National Emergencies Act. This was the declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States. It opens up other authorities where in the event of a declaration of war or a national emergency, you can do certain other things that will be necessary, I believe. And Trump is clearly, this is on day one in office. He is getting to work. He's signing these executive orders immediately to get to work to secure the border. And this was done. You can now have the ready reserve in a time of national emergency under 10 U.S.C. 12302. You get the ready reserve in a time of national emergency declared by the president without the consent of the people concerned or order any other due to any authority designated by the secretary concerned may, without the consent of the persons concerned, order any unit or any member not assigned to a unit organized to serve as a unit in a ready reserve under the jurisdiction of that secretary to active duty for not more than 24 consecutive months. So You can have up to 1 million people serving in the ready reserve to deal with the southern border emergency, and it appears to be 2-year tours of duty there. And so that can be done. You also have declaration of national emergency by executive order, the authority to do so. Trump has done that, and he's also resumed border wall construction under 10 U.S. Code 2808. Construction authority in the event of a declaration of war or national emergency. In the event of a war or declaration by the president of a national emergency that requires the use of the armed forces, the Secretary of Defense, without regard to any other provision of the law, may undertake military construction projects and may authorize the secretaries of the military departments to undertake military construction projects not otherwise authorized by law that are necessary to support such use of the armed forces. So the border wall is being completed. He got to work immediately in terms of doing that, and it's going to proceed very quickly. And you can see the results, which is to say that the amount of illegal immigrants coming to the United States across the southwest border is rapidly approaching zero. Let's see here. And Trump, here's the ready reserve. We covered that. We covered the border wall construction. In addition, President Trump declared Tren de Aragua and other drug cartels as terrorist organizations under a January 20th executive order in accordance with 8 U.S. Code Section 1189. So here's the designation of these terrorist organizations, specifically designated global terrorists, and that was done under 8 U.S. Code 1189. And once again, Trump is saying that these criminal gangs coming to the United States, they're not allowed to be here. In fact, they're going to be labeled terrorist organizations. These drug cartels, you're shipping all this fentanyl, you're doing drug trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking, you're engaged in violence, you're engaged in assassinations. Well, those people got to go. And he's also, we also have the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by Tren de Aragua, which resulted in some 250 Tren de Aragua gang members being deported to El Salvador, military ally, as this military looks like a military operation. If you're putting the military on the border to deal with the border, you're declaring the enemies to be terrorist organizations, you're declaring their memberships to be enemy alien invaders, and then you deport them immediately, put them on planes as the ink is drying on the proclamation. March 15, Trump issued a proclamation invoking the 1798 Alien Enemy Act that the international criminal organization Tren de Aragua, supported by Venezuela, is, quote, a hybrid criminal state that is perpetrating an invasion of and predatory incursion into the United States, and which poses a substantial danger to the United States. The same day, about 250 enemy aliens were expelled to El Salvador for processing. And all this just within 2 months of taking office, and the results speak for themselves. We don't have data for March yet, but for February, we see a 94% drop. And Mexico is cooperating to a certain extent with the U.S. on securing the border. The U.S. military is on the border. And again, the numbers are down 94%. This is a contrast from the prior administration of former President Joe Biden. And I say it's simply stunning. Combining data from both the United States Border Patrol encounters and the Office of Field Operations Inadmissibles by the Office of Immigration Statistics, there were some 10.8 million border encounters all told from January 2021 to November 2024. And most of them were just allowed into the United States. So you've had millions of people unvetted come into the United States because of Joe Biden, because of Kamala Harris, because they refused to secure the border. And the whole time Biden tried to say, well, the reason for the border crisis was because Congress had not acted. But just a month into Trump's second term, Congress has not done anything special, but the number of encounters are rapidly approaching zero. It's almost as if border security were simply a matter of political will, of which Trump appears to have an ample supply of will. He knows what he's doing. President Trump takes this job very seriously. Ever since he came down the escalator in 2015, that was 10 years ago, to say he was running for president, he was going to deal with the border, he was going to secure it. And then there's also more news. President Trump has also issued tariffs on Venezuela's oil consumers, and tightens the noose around the neck of Nicolas Maduro as China faces an additional 25% tariff. So there's President Trump. I think this picture is from him signing the executive order abolishing the Department of Education. But here he is, actually wasting no time in putting pressure on Venezuela's trade partners to stop doing business with the Nicolas Maduro regime on March 24, placing an additional 25% tariff on all goods from countries that import oil from Venezuela. So there it is, March 24, 2025, imposing tariffs on countries importing Venezuelan oil. He's wasting no time with this. And you get a 25% tariff that will include China, which constitutes 68% of Venezuela's oil exports, according to data compiled by the U.S. Energy Information Agency. Other importers of Venezuelan oil include Cuba, which constitutes 4% of Venezuela's oil exports, and Spain constituting another 4%. Singapore constitutes 1%, Malaysia 0.3%, Russia 0.2%, Vietnam 0.01%, and Bahamas 0.03%. Separate data shows that in 2024, India took in about 63,000 barrels per day of oil, which would be about 8% of Venezuela's exports, which were said to be about 772,000 for the year of 2024. Almost another quarter of the exports from Venezuela for petroleum came to the United States. But with the new sanctions President Trump is quickly putting into place, that will drop dramatically. The real exports from Venezuela that the U.S. is concerned about are gangs, drugs, and sex traffickers, including Tren de Aragua, which, again, President Trump has declared to be a terrorist organization and as enemy alien invaders. Just last year, Pew Research estimated that there could be as many as 270,000 illegal immigrants from Venezuela in the U.S. as of 2022. But given the growth from 130,000 in 2017, it's going up by like 20% a year, it could be as high as 440,000 now. So we have data from 2022, but it's 2025 now. But Pew was able to chart it from 2017 to 2022. It's going from 130,000 to 270,000. Well, it stands to reason it might be up to about 440,000, almost 500,000 Venezuelans in the country illegally. And given the country's rampant inflation and failing socialist economy, plus a contested election in 2024, more than 8 million people have fled Venezuela in the past decade, fueling the migration crisis in the Americas. And here's Nicolas Maduro. And he says, socialism is a cartoon from Tony Branco. Socialism is wonderful. And there's the people of Venezuela. They're starving while Nicolas Maduro gets big turkeys and loaves of bread and mashed potatoes and wine and fruit. He seems really happy. Yeah, socialism is really wonderful for him. Journalist Rana Risquez in 2023 estimated that Tren de Aragua gang's total membership might be about 5,000, although it is unclear how many of those gang members have made their way to the United States and how many more they recruited once they got here. So you have maybe 500,000 Venezuelans here illegally, maybe 5,000 or so are these gang members. They could be growing their numbers. We don't really know, as Trump's only been in office for 2 months, so they're going to try to crack down on them very quickly. According to President Trump's executive order justifying the new actions, these are the tariffs on countries importing Venezuelan oil. Let's see, go back here. The actions and policies of the regime of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. The activities of the Tren de Aragua gang, a transnational criminal organization originating in Venezuela and designated as a foreign terrorist organization and a specially designated global terrorist organization, have intensified this threat, as highlighted in Proclamation 10903, March 14, 2025, invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States. Furthermore, Venezuela's ongoing destabilizing actions, including its support for illicit activities, necessitate further economic measures to protect the United States interests. Trump added the Tren de Aragua gang, a transnational criminal organization with origins in Venezuela, has been designated a foreign terrorist organization by the U.S. due to its extensive involvement in terrorist activities such as kidnapping, violent attacks, including the assassination of a Venezuelan opposition figure that destabilized communities across the Western Hemisphere. The prior administration's open border policies facilitated the infiltration of the United States by members of Tren de Aragua, allowing these dangerous criminals to establish a foothold within the United States cities and prey upon American citizens. The Maduro regime aided and facilitated the influx of Tren de Aragua members into the United States during the prior administration by failing to control its borders, permitting the gang's operations to flourish within Venezuela, and refusing to take action against its members, thereby exacerbating the illegal immigration crisis. As I mentioned, 8 million people have fled Venezuela in the past decade because of socialism, the inflation, the Maduro regime, the suppression, the horrible human rights record, and so forth. As a result, the tariffs on Venezuela's trade partners will go into effect on or about April 2. On or after April 2, a tariff of 25%, quote, may be imposed on all goods imported into the United States from any country that imports Venezuelan oil, whether directly from Venezuela or indirectly through third parties. This is very little notice. This is April 2nd. It's April 25th right now. Trump saying, oh, by the way, China, if you don't stop buying oil from Venezuela next week, we're going to put these tariffs on you. So very little time, but it's going to hit the Venezuelan economy, I think, very, very hard as Trump tightens the noose around the Maduro regime. Here, Trump is cutting off Venezuela's most valuable and significant export, oil. In 2024, Venezuela exported about 772,000 barrels a day of oil, generating, I estimate, about 20 billion annually for the country. The regime is entirely dependent on oil revenues, constituting about 2/3 of its annual budget. So this could, topple the Maduro regime very, very quickly. Just if as China and other Venezuelan oil importers will have a serious choice to make, either immediately shift to other sources of oil in order to avoid the U.S. tariff, or get hit again with another tariff from Trump, who has already increased the tariffs on Chinese goods by 10% to stop the illegal fentanyl trade. That came atop a 25% tariff on 250 billion of goods and 17.5% on the remaining 300 billion of goods. Those were tariffs that Trump had established during his administration that Joe Biden never rescinded. The Venezuelan oil, perhaps only 4% of China's 11 million barrels a day imported, might not be worth the increased tariffs to Beijing, which imports far more oil from Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq, according to the Energy Information Agency. Either way, it appears to be no skin off the president's nose as he quickly attempts to bring the threats to American security posed by Venezuela to heel. So is he looking to topple the Maduro regime in Caracas? It wouldn't be the first time it's been tried. I see a good report here from Wired, The Untold Story. It was a failed attempt to overthrow Maduro, but again, this wouldn't be the first time that Trump has tried to take actions against Venezuela, whether in a top secret fashion or otherwise. And now with the oil sanctions and tariffs, Trump is escalating the pressure rapidly. Also, given the ties to China and Russia, the president could be viewing this the same way James Monroe and Theodore Roosevelt thought about protecting American interests in the Western Hemisphere by basically supporting decolonization, get Europe out of the Americas, let these countries have their own independence. But here you see China and Russia kind of using countries like Venezuela, but also Cuba, as satellites to, threaten American interest. And Trump saying, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to reassert the Monroe Doctrine and Roosevelt's corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, which said that you could use military force if necessary to protect American interests in the Western Hemisphere. And he's saying we're not going to just do that in Venezuela, but also in the Panama Canal, Greenland, and other strategic locations near the U.S., plus the moves, as we were just covering, to immediately secure the U.S. border with Mexico. So I think this is all coming to a head very, very quickly. President Trump means business. He's going to secure the border. He's going to put these tariffs on Venezuela's oil consumers, 25%. Countries are not going to want another 25% when on top of what's already coming. So it's just like, oh, what do I got to do? Just get oil from somewhere else, and then you don't get the 25% tariff. And yeah, don't support the Venezuelan government right now. Trump looks like he might be trying to topple it per se, to just get this narco terrorist state under control. And hopefully, they're threatening the United States. That's what happens when you threaten the United States and the Western Hemisphere. And China and Russia should probably stop helping them. Again, this is Robert Romano, Executive Director with Americans for Limited Government and Americans for Limited Government Foundation. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day. First, we will take a look at the, I forgot to share my screen the entire time. Well, we just did that all on camera then. But we will look at the super chats here. Sorry for not sharing my screen correctly here. Let's see here. Stephanie Lynn, Atlantic 2. And then Gary Townsend says, glad it's over. Now we don't have to waste money on a fence. We're not wasting money on the fence. Trump is completing the border wall. That will certainly help to future presidents secure the border. Certainly Joe Biden didn't want to finish the border wall. But I think these are important measures that are being taken by the Trump administration to, secure America. And I did want to show you those charts, though. Let me move that over here. We should have done that. We should have been sharing our screen here. Here's the chart for Southwest land border encounters, where you can see it down to 11,709 in February of 2025. In February 2024, it was at 189,000. So it's down 94%. But it took again declaring the national emergency, sending the military to the border, saying that we're going to have the emergency is clearly under U.S. law. So Trump is enforcing the laws, and he can now use the funds to finish the border wall. I think we have to do that. He clearly has the authority to declare the national emergency and to designate the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. That's under 8 U.S. Code 1189. And to invoke the Enemy Aliens Act. And that's what's happening now. We're shipping, Venezuelan and other criminal drug cartel terrorist gang members overseas right now. And this was the OHS, Office of Homeland Security statistics. And I wanted to show you the chart that showed that since 2017, we were seeing relatively lower levels of illegal immigration, but then under the Biden administration, you have millions upon millions of people pouring in here. And here was the executive order imposing the tariffs on Venezuelan oil. Again, apologies for not properly sharing my screen there, but I did want you to see all that. And again, also here's that Wired story, the untold story of the Trump's first attempt to topple Maduro. I think that's what's happening right now. President Trump, again, he's taking this all very, very seriously. Again, this is Robert Romano, Executive Director with Americans for Limited Government, Americans for Limited Government Foundation. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.